He's more than an athlete. He's an artist.
I think you're in love, Ron.
Shut up.
Victor, I love you. Victor, I do.
When we're apart, my heart beats only.
Harry Potter!
Hey, my eyes aren't glistening with the ghost of my past.
I'm not an owl.
Technically, it's a fact.
Ah, c'est magnifique.
Kill the stag.
Marty Crouch!
Behaving like a babbling, bumbling band of baboons.
Junior.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold, the podcast where I retell you my favorite stories of all time. Today, we will be talking about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, chapters 23 and 24. I think that's right. 23 and 24. But I never take this journey alone. I always have with me some very special guests. And listeners, this week, you're in for a treat. All right. I want to get your hands ready for those rounds of applause. All right. You're in for a real treat. We have with us a MuggleCaster, the one and only Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Barry. Thank you so much for having me. What an intro.
Right? No, what a guest. It's easy to make a great intro when you have a great guest. Listeners may not be able to see it if you're not watching this on YouTube, but I do have my MuggleCasters 19 years later shirt.
Yeah,
all right.
I appreciate that.
Rep the brand. MuggleCast, listeners will hear me say all the time, I listen to a ton of Harry Potter podcasts, and this is not only is it like my favorite Harry Potter podcast, it's my favorite podcast in general. I love you guys so much. You make such a good show. My show would not exist without it. So honored to have you here. So thank you so much for your time here, Laura.
Hey, I'm really honored that you asked. And yeah, I mean, we've definitely been in touch for quite some time now through MuggleCast. And I know that my co-host Micah made an appearance on this show as well. What was it, last year?
Yeah, for book 2. Hello. Quick correction here. Micah was actually on for book 3, not book 2, in chapters 3 and 4, to be specific. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, and he talked about how much fun he had, and you've joined us for a number of like MuggleCast events and things, so we already have a really good rapport going on, so it felt like a really natural guest opportunity to take. So I'm glad to be here. I always love getting a chance to connect with other folks in the fandom and hear other people's fresh takes on Harry Potter, because we've been talking about it for so long on MuggleCast that sometimes it's easy to get a little siloed, you know? So it's always nice to branch out and hear from different folks.
Yeah, so MuggleCast has been doing this for over 20 years now. It's a long time to be podcasting. The other night, so one of the things you guys get asked about, at least I'll hear you mention on the podcast, is how are you guys able to do this after 20 years? How are you able to keep coming up with new things to talk about? But you are. And even, you're going chapter by chapter through the books as well. You guys are in book 6 now. And what's interesting is, you guys have that playback where you'll show old memories from when you previously talked about those chapters. And you do have fresh takes and new things in there as well. So
totally.
Life kind of changes you like that.
And that's the beautiful thing about this series is that you do always get something new out of it. And I think that has something to do with it. I think our generation had a really special experience with Potter because we kind of grew up with it, which means we were growing up with Harry as he was enduring everything he endured. But now as we sort of embark on these different phases of life, it allows us to look back and have different interpretations on characters and situations. And maybe we feel differently about a character that we once hated, or maybe a character that we once loved that we realize now, oh, they're a little bit emotionally stunted and like not the best parental figure,
One of the fascinating things too is like when you talk to others, these are just words on a page. And so much it is dependent upon how you read their tone of voice or like their inflections, whatever. And that, like for me, so much of how I view these characters is based on Jim Dale's narration of them, but then I'll get other
Yeah.
people telling me a complete opposite perspective. Like, oh, I didn't read Harry as saying it like that at all whenever it came to this moment or whatever. I will say when Micah was on, there was a moment, I actually had to edit it out because I fumbled so much over my words. I was very nervous that episode because I was like, this is my first big guest. but
Aw.
but I edited this part out. But there was a moment when he goes, am I your favorite MuggleCaster? And then he goes,
Oh my God.
he goes, but
Micah.
he said, if you don't say me, the only other correct answer is Laura. So he gave you a shout out right there.
Oh, well, we've both got that Ravenclaw thing going
Mhm.
on, so Ravenclaw's got to have each other's backs.
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, boo on him for putting you on the spot like
No,
that. That's not
why I
cool.
was nervous. That's not why I was nervous at all. So much of that episode, I listened back and I was like, man, I hate this episode. I did a terrible job. But he was incredible, and he really made it a wonderful, wonderful time. So hopefully at this point, though, you know, I'm so big and famous now. It's not even a problem. All right, people all over the
I
world
mean,
listening. You know.
you seem like a natural to me, man. Like,
Well, thank you.
this
Thank you
feels
very much.
this feels very fluid, very easy.
A lot of it too is just all those years sitting on the other end of the MuggleCast headphones, listening to you guys and saying what I think. But you guys never heard me, but I was speaking.
Well, now we do.
Well, now you do. So one thing that I also have taken from MuggleCast is a concept called the Fandom ID. And listeners, if you don't know this, it is when my guest, every time I have a new guest on, they will share with us what their Fandom ID is, which is their Hogwarts house, their favorite Harry Potter book, favorite Harry Potter movie, and how they got into the series. So Laura, take it away.
Yeah, so mentioned this a moment ago, but my Hogwarts house is Ravenclaw. My favorite book is Goblet of Fire, so hence why Barry asked me to be on for some Goblet of Fire discussion, so that worked out really well. My favorite movie is Deathly Hallows Part 1,
Ooh.
and the way that I got into Harry Potter was my parents got me the first 3 books for my 11th birthday,
No.
which feels super meaningful in retrospect. Of course, at my 11th birthday, I had no idea what any of that would mean for the rest of my life, but the rest is sort of history from beyond that. But yeah, it was before Goblet of Fire came out that I got those first 3 books, and then the summer after my 11th birthday, we had moved to Georgia.
Woo!
And actually we have that in common.
Yeah. One of the things that I laugh to myself about is the first 2 or 3 Slug Club hangouts I was on, which is this thing that listeners that MuggleCast does for their patrons to all hang out and chit chat over video. I felt, looking back, I felt so pick me because every time I was like, Laura, I'm from the same town as you. Laura, did you know I'm from the same town as you?
You weren't like that though. That's not how you came across at all. It's such a strange thing when you're from a small town and then you meet somebody who's also from that small town, and it's like, whoa, because you get out in the world and you talk about being from that small town and nobody else has ever heard of it. So then when
They
you
laugh
do
at
meet
our
somebody,
city name.
yeah. Well, I mean, I've been known to laugh at that name as well.
Fair enough.
As well as some of my co-hosts who love to make jokes about it back in the day. I don't know if you recall that.
This is the thing. Growing up, I never even thought about it. I was just like, I should start a name.
I didn't either until it was honestly until I got involved in podcasting, and I was podcasting with a lot of other teenagers who
they knew.
They knew and they informed me. And I used to work as an operator at our local Target. And so I would have to pick up the phone and say, thank you for calling your local city name here, Target. And Andrew, I will never forget. I think I was a junior in high school. He called one time because he knew I had that job, called to hear me give the spiel. and then I just heard him laugh hysterically, and then he hung up on me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So there's
funny.
a lot of connections to that little town that seem to come up in the world of Harry Potter as well. But yeah, when we first moved there when I was 11, we moved in the summer. So since it wasn't during the school year, there weren't many opportunities for me to meet other kids. So when Goblet of Fire came out, of course, that book's like 700 plus pages.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was thrilled because she was like, oh my gosh, well, at least this book is going to keep her busy.
She'll have something to do.
She'll have something to do. And then I read it in 3 days.
Wow.
And she was like, crap.
Reread the other ones.
Yeah, that was well, that's when I started writing fan fiction. That was like the origin of that. I didn't even know that's what I was writing, but it was like, well, there's no more Harry Potter, but I can't get enough. So that's kind of like my Potter origin story.
Very cool. Yeah, that's how I got into listening to podcasts. Was I finished Avatar: The Last Airbender with my wife when we were dating at the time, and we binged it, and I was like, I can't get enough. I need more. We finished that in like a month. I need more. And I found a Avatar: The Last Airbender podcast, and then I was like, people do this stuff? And so then I found MuggleCast right after that. But very cool. So thank you for sharing with us your fandom ID. Now, listeners, we're going to be moving on to our Quizzitch section, everybody's favorite part of the show. So I pridefully claim that I know more about Harry Potter than anybody else. And I put that theory to the test by challenging my guests. My guests represent the world. So, Laura, you have a big responsibility today. You're representing the entire world. I represent myself. I ask them 2 questions. They ask me 2 questions. And we count it all up. And by the end of the book, we see who knew more about that book, me or the world. I won book 1.
I love that.
Lost book 2. Lost book 3. Just barely, though. And here we are in book 4. I'm recording a little bit out of order at the moment, but I believe at the moment I am behind by 1.5 points. So there are half-point opportunities, Laura.
Okay.
And normally it's 2 questions, but guys, Laura came prepared with 4. So we'll go back and forth. You ask me a question, I'll ask you, and we'll get it rocking like that. So
Sounds
Laura,
great.
take it away.
All right. So this relates to chapter 23, the Yule Ball.
Mm-hmm.
What does Percy misname Winky as? He can't remember her name. He calls her something else.
That's a great question. And when I read these chapters, I will underline points and write a Q next to it because I'm like, this could be a question.
Yep.
I didn't even think to do it for that one. Wimpy?
No, you're on the right track, though. Do you want to try? You want to try again?
No, I got it wrong. What's the correct answer?
Blinky.
Blinky. Oh my goodness. Rats. All right. So I'm already in the hole. Let's see what happens. So your question, Laura. Who does Ludo Bagman dance with at the Yule Ball?
Oh, snap. Dang it. I should have paid more attention to that.
It's a little difficult too because he's not in the movies. So you can't like base it on that.
I know. I can't even like fall back on the movie representation, although sometimes that's wrong too.
It is, yes.
Why do I want to say McGonagall? But
she is one of the dancers.
Yeah, I'll say McGonagall, but I'm not feeling confident.
You know, I wish you were less confident because that is the correct answer. So good job.
Oh,
ding, ding, ding.
Okay, cool. I'll take it.
And then he kisses her hand. Ooh.
Okay. Yeah, you know what I think it is? I feel like I remembered it from the chapter, but then I was also like, if McGonagall's going to dance with anybody, I just don't see her dancing with him.
Mm-hmm. Hey, he played for the Wimborne Wasps.
Yeah.
That's the funny, like one reoccurring bit in this book that I find so funny. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but every time Ludo was mentioned to a new person, that person's first response is, oh, he played for the Wimborne Wasps. It's like robotic. They're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. But anyway, what's your next question, Laura?
Okay, my next question relates to a little bit of fandom history that it is also rooted in chapter 23.
Good.
In addition to storytelling.
Mhm.
What was the purpose of Hermione teaching Crumb how to pronounce her name?
You know what? This is just wonderful because I even made note of this later on to mention in the retelling that MuggleCast taught me this. The reason was because people in the fandom were saying Hermione wrong. And this was JK's way of teaching them the correct way of saying her
Yup.
name.
Ding,
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 ding.
ding.
Perfect.
Yay. Oh, yeah. I remember hearing that on MuggleCast for the first time, being like, oh, that's so clever. What a genius thing to do. All
Yeah,
right.
we all said her name wrong back in the day before the
Mhm.
movies and everything.
That's funny. I was privy to the first thing I was ever shown was the first movie, not any of the books. So, I mean, I never got it wrong, but whatever. Laura, your next question. Who does Moody dance with? Now, this should be easier because you've already taken one teacher off the board.
I know. Is it Professor Sinistra?
That is correct. Ding, ding, ding.
Really? Okay. I
Yep.
was like, it's either, yeah, okay.
Very good.
I think
All
I just
right.
got lucky.
No, it is a movie change too because he's just over there by himself in the movie.
Isn't he hanging out with a ferret in the movie? There's like a ferret sitting next to him.
I think the ferret is part of his like traditional Scottish garb, you know, like that's what I always, because I've seen that before on like Highlanders wearing that, like, because he's wearing a kilt and
Yeah.
the sash. So I think there is a ferret, but I think it's like a dead decorative ferret.
Oh. Sad ferret.
Sad ferret. All right, 2-1. You're winning. What's your next question?
Next question comes from Chapter 24, which is the next chapter we'll discuss. What does Harry find under his bed on Boxing Day?
Harry finds a tiny dismembered arm that looks like it could have come from a Bulgarian Quidditch robe.
Yep. Perfect. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, that's such a funny. I love that moment so much. Not for the little crumb though. I wonder if it felt pain. Oh. Next question. Okay, let's see. Ron comes up with the acronym SPUG. What does SPUG stand for?
Support for the protection of ugly goblins.
All right, that's pretty daggum close. You're either going to get a half point or a full point. I didn't have it written down, but it's either support or society.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Don't know which, but either way, you'll get a half point because it is the Society for the Protection.
The Society for the okay, I'll take.
Still got a half point though. Very good.
That's fair.
All right, and then your final question, Laura.
Yes. What two creatures did Hagrid crossbreed to create the blast-ended Scroots?
I don't know how he did this, especially after watching the Fantastic Beasts, the third movie.
I know.
But he crossbred. Maybe he did one of the little tiny ones. That'd be weird though. But he did a manticore and a fire crab. Those were the two.
Perfect.
Yay.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right. So your last one. Let's see if you basically go 4 for 4. Pretty much. We'll see right here. Which student claims to have been bitten by a flubberworm?
Crab.
That is correct. Ding, ding,
All
ding.
right.
Good job, Laura. Okay.
Oh,
so,
thank you.
3.5 to 3. You further distanced the lead. Good job, world. All right. You represented. You didn't let him down. All right.
I know. Well, now.
Down, that's okay.
No, you did. I mean, you did fine. And also, I mean, it gives my co-hosts on MuggleCast like one less thing to like rib me about when we're plugging the podcast. So it's very helpful.
I want to. So a while ago we did I was fortunate enough to be able to like be part of your book 5 trivia episode.
Yeah.
And originally how that was pitched was that I messaged Micah and I said, hey, what I think could be really funny would be to put all 4 of you against each other in a trivia competition. And he was quick to be like, better idea. We just asked the audience to trivia questions.
Yeah. So that's the fun thing. And what I appreciate about what you do here is you're actually putting yourself in the hot seat and your co-hosts in the hot seat to do trivia live. See, we don't do that on MuggleCast. We just ask the questions, and we benefit from being able to fact check behind the scenes. So, you're actually a lot braver than we are.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But listeners, that wraps up our quizzes section. Before we move on to the retelling of the chapters, we need to ask or remind you what your question was last week and ask you this week's question. So last week, the question was, what was Dobby's tie patterned with? Whenever the students go to the kitchens, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, Dobby's wearing a tie. What was it patterned with? And if you said the answer to that question was horseshoes, well, you'd be correct. Good job, listeners. If you got it right, congratulations. If you got it wrong, better luck next time. Next time being right now. Your question for this week is, how many socks does Dobby have? How many socks does Dobby have? If you want to answer that question, you can write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. And now that we got Quizzitch out of the way, Fandom ID out of the way, it's time to recap what happened. So listeners, if you're new here, the way that this works is I recap what happens in the chapter, retell it, if you will. Laura, during this time, is free to interrupt me as she sees fit. All right. If you hear her cut across and stop what I'm saying, she's not being rude. She's doing what I asked her to, listeners. All right. Or she can let me ramble for as long as she wants, just looking and silently judging my Harry Potter takes.
Absolutely not. You have great takes.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And then at the very end of each chapter coverage, we will have our favorite lines section, highlighting our favorite lines, a transfiguration section highlighting the movie changes, and then a golden snitch section where we talk about behind the scenes lore, stuff like if there was a wizard on a chocolate frog card, who's that wizard? And then we do it all again for the next chapter. And at the very end of the episode, we have our restricted section where we talk about spoilers. So let's get to it, because these are some thick chapters. They are quite dense.
Yes.
I had the idea for this book to switch to one chapter per episode. And I remember with the earlier chapters of this book, I was like, maybe I don't need to. I probably don't. I'm thinking we might need to change that after this season. We'll see, listeners.
Yeah, so I think Goblet is because we've done a couple of rounds of chapter by chapter, and Goblet was really where we started realizing it's a lot harder to fit multiple chapters into an episode. So hats off to you.
Thank you. And I got a kid now, listeners. This is a lot of notes to take with the crying baby in the room. All right. I don't let her cry. I hold her and careful, sing her back to sleep. She actually does enjoy my singing. I sing British sea shanties because that's the only thing I really have memorized. That and old church hymns. And it
so
works.
Sweet. Yeah. I can see why that would rock her to sleep perfectly. I love that.
Bones in the Ocean, listeners, by the Longest Johns. Check it out. It's great. It's incredible. Anyway, moving on, chapter 3, the Yule Ball. So there's lots of homework given over the holidays, which is awful. But nobody cares. Nobody really cares. Nobody even gave it any mind. We get a peek into the crowded Gryffindor common room this holiday season. And Harry's like, dude, it's crazy that there's so many people here now. Because they usually go home. One note, he says, no bit of food left out was safe because of what Fred and George were doing with their Weasley's Wizard Wheezes products. But my thought was no food left out should ever be safe. Why would you eat food that's left out anyway?
It was the 90s. It was a different time.
We were young. We were wild and free. Oh, my goodness. It makes me think of, there was one time growing up, my father had left cookies out on the stove. And at the time, this is going to sound awful. Brace yourself, listeners. We had a rat problem in our house. And I woke up and saw that some of the cookies had some little nibbles on them. And I was like, well, I'm not having any more cookies now. My twin sister was not as perceptive as I. And she ate the cookies. And I remember we told her, Hannah, you didn't eat them. They were the rat cookies. And she's in tears. She calls my dad and she goes, Dad, I ate the cookies. What's going to happen? And he's like, it's not a big deal. 1 or 2 cookies, not a problem. And she goes, you don't understand. I ate all the cookies.
All of them. All of the rat cookies. Oh, no.
So don't eat rat cookies, listeners. Anyway, Hermione won't tell Ron who she's going to the ball with. I love that moment, though, when Ron asks and Malfoy says, like, you don't think anybody would honestly go with that? And then she gets that burn in, hey, Moody. And twitchy little ferret, aren't you?
I know. Oh, it's
love that.
so good, especially for the payoff that we're going to get a little later on in the chapter.
Yep.
But we'll get there.
Yeah, I just need to, I say things as they come to me. And one thing that is just so incredible about Hermione right now, growing up, I had a pushback against how great of a character she was because, I was a boy and everybody would be like, this girl is the best character. Just Harry couldn't do anything without her. And I was like, no, Harry rocks. She's not the best. And that was my attitude growing up. Reading these books more, and now I'm been hearing a lot on the online sphere, a lot of hate towards Hermione.
Really?
At least it is really odd. People somebody posted the other day, give me your Harry Potter hot takes. And half of them were people saying Hermione is super annoying and an awful character. I'm like, you know what? Forget y'all. She rocks. And these chapters, I know people, even on MuggleCast, you highlight, she can be a little vindictive at times, or a little, but I kind of like it. I kind of makes for a great story, and it's really funny. So we're huge Hermione fans here.
Oh, no. Honestly, if it weren't for Hermione, those boys would have been dead partway through the series. But also, I think just to pay tribute to the entire trio, I think each of them brings necessary qualities to the table that allows them to be successful. Like they truly are a golden trio where each person is bringing something really integral to the table. So I hate that it sounds like some people online are taking a very anti-Hermione stance because the stories don't work without her.
No. Yeah. And I like how you said it too, because I think that was my ultimate qualm with the people that would hype up Hermione too much is that, well, all three of them are very special and important.
Totally.
And then my next note is Hermione's teeth. I love this moment so much. This is such a funny moment. I love the way Jim Dale does her little giggle voice of like, hee hee, I did a thing. And her teeth are like normal sized. And she goes, my parents won't like it, but who cares? So Pigwidgeon shows up, brings Sirius's letter. I like when Ron's holding him in his fist and his happy little head is just sticking out above the fist like hoot hoot.
I know. Well, and he scares that group of third years too. And it's so funny to see how he treats this moment because he's very dismissive of it. He's like, clear out, you lot, stop staring at me, basically. But just like a chapter ago, he was really stressing out about being able to get a date for the Yule Ball. And I'm like, man, you're kind of abusing your animal in front of a group of girls who might otherwise have had interest in you, and you just completely don't understand what message you're sending right now because he's so hyper-focused on Hermione at this moment that he's just not even thinking.
I hadn't even thought about it. Pigwidgeon could have been a good wingman for him. We're just walking that cute little. People love puffskins.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, walk around with that cute little owl. Amazing wingman.
A wing owl? I don't know. One of my favorite little puns I came up with. It's really stupid, but I liked it. Was I called owls. You remember that trend where we called everything a type of doggo and cows were moo grass doggos? I called the owls hootie air doggos.
Oh my God, that's cute.
Right. Thank you. I'll go tell my wife that you liked it. But anyway, so we get Sirius's letter. He congratulates Harry, but also gives him a warning. Harry says, dang, he sounds like Moody. Constant vigilance. But before they go to bed, they play some chess. It ends with Ron winning. Surprise, surprise.
Per usual.
And then they go to bed. But then the next day, Laura, it's Christmas!
Woo!
Yay! So Dobby wakes Harry up, scares the crap out of him. I love this so much where he's like, I'm so sorry, Harry. And then Harry goes, maybe just prod me next time. It'll be all right. You don't need to hang over me. Which I think is what he did in book 2 in the hospital wing.
Harry's like, just don't be weird, man. Like, you can come visit me. Just don't be weird.
Okay. So like I said, Dobby scares him. And then Seamus, I wrote down, not exactly a guard dog, because, Harry yells when he wakes up and he's so scared, and everybody opens up their curtains, says they're all tousle-haired, and Seamus looks over. Harry, are you all right? It's like, we could have used you earlier, Seamus, if they're actually what? He goes, are you being attacked, is what he asks specifically. And it's like, if he was, you were of no use just now. You're really not quick to the punch.
Well, and it's also funny because a couple of years previously, they genuinely had someone in their dormitory who they thought was attacking Ron. So it should hit a little close to home.
Yeah, but it's Christmas, he's just, whatever. Harry and Dobby exchange presents. I like Harry goes, yeah, I got you something. And then when he gives Dobby the socks, he goes, oh, but sir, they must have made a mistake at the store. They gave you 2 of the same kind. And my favorite moment of the chapter is Ron going, oh no. Oh, how did you not catch that, Harry? You silly guy. And then he gives Dobby 2 new socks. And he's like, you can mix and match these 2. It makes me think of, and we'll give you 2 new presents. But it gives you 2 new socks. And Dobby loves that, hypes him up, and Ron's all tickled. He's like, oh, this is the kind of attitude Ron should be showing around the school. His fun, playful side, not his mean owl abusing side. But he's all tickled pink. Like, just socks.
I mean, it also Dobby makes me feel seen in this moment because, my socks never match. Oh. I don't know how relatable this is, but I mean, especially like after you've done laundry and your socks are just like spread out in the laundry heap as you're going through it to like fold and put it away. I don't show my socks. I'm a typical millennial. I wear like the invisible socks that don't roll halfway up my calves like the kids are doing these days. So I'm not all that interested in people knowing what socks I'm wearing. So they never match. Thank you for normalizing it, Dobby.
Props to you, Dobby. Yeah, I completely get that. I do landscaping, and so half my socks get ruined anyway. And it's like, oh, well. And I also found out that socks can disappear in the washer. Have you seen those videos where people open up the washer and they're like got behind the rim? So for Christmas, I actually asked for a netted bag to put in the washer.
Oh, how very adult of you.
Right?
I have not gotten there.
I felt very mature. It comes for us all one day, Laura. Hang on to that. So they finish up opening presents, head on down to the Great Hall for some brekkie. After that, they go outside for a snowball fight. Hermione doesn't join in, though. She just watches. And at 5 o'clock, she's like, all right, time to go get all dolled up. Ron's like, you need 3 hours? But during his time, his shock, he is unsuspecting, and a snowball hits him right in the face. He gets wrecked. But she still doesn't answer, because I love when he goes, who are you going with? And she's just like, hee, I'll never tell. And goes on up to the castle. The fat lady is tossed. All right. One of my potential questions for you was, what does the fat lady mistakenly call the password? Would you have gotten that right?
I would have.
Yep. Larry fights. So silly. And the boys suit up. And so you said it just a second ago of like, yeah, she needs that long of a time. I loved getting ready for prom. I love getting ready for dances. I love getting ready for my wedding. I think like I was told so much by like a lot of the girls around me that girls love a guy in a suit. Like that's just what they would tell. Like they love the suit, looks so good. And I remember little like middle school or high school Barry, whatever dance he's getting prepared for. And I had a giant curly like fro. That's the kind of hair I had. And I didn't do anything with it. But I was like, I'm looking good. And as I put on my suit and button up my little cuffs, and I was like, dang, I'm going to be such a lady killer out there. So I get it. It was a lot of fun getting ready for those dances.
So yeah, you put in the effort that none of these boys were willing to put in to get ready. And I mean, Ron definitely could have used a little more time to prepare himself.
Tried to seamstress his own stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't work out too well. I love Fred winking at Harry on the way out as they leave. You know, he's like, go get him, Tiger. So they go. Ron is asking about another girl, which is not a good look. You know, the whole time he's with his date. Where's Hermione? And it's like, Ron, I don't know if you know how this works. I didn't at the time either, but still, like, you shouldn't be doing that. Slytherin rolls up looking fresh. Malfoy has on a velvet suit. Harry says he looks like a vicar, but I imagine that's still probably kind of a cool look.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Harry with his little petty moment that he's happy that Crabbe and Goyle don't have a partner. They have each other, Harry. That's what you should have realized.
Yeah, it's okay to go stag to these things. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, they're 14. But I like how excited Parvati is this whole time. It's a very sweet moment that stood out to me, I think, a lot during this read through of how excited she is. I don't think she's taken up with Harry, obviously. But I don't think it's necessarily even because of how Harry treats her. It's more like, we've been in the same class together for 4 years now. We're like family. So I am not awestruck by you. But she gets like the cool seat of being a champion's date. She's all dressed up. Earlier McGonagall said you can't even wear that hair ornament when the people showed up. Well, now she's wearing whatever she wants, gold bangles and a nice pink dress. So I was happy for her, at least in those moments.
To be honest with you, I would say if she and Harry looked good during this whole opening ceremony, it was because of her.
Exactly.
Harry points out she's the one leading. She's the one making sure that he knows where he's going. If it weren't for her,
my waist.
Yeah, exactly. That was something that they actually, I thought, adapted really well for the films, was just showing how out of his depth Harry was. So really, he made a good choice in date, for sure. But it is so funny, too, because he and Ron also just seem to be completely unaware of the fact that their dates are according to, I think it's Seamus or Dean. I can't remember which one of them says it.
Seamus, yeah.
Yeah, one of them's like, how did you two get the most attractive girls in our year? But they don't actually have interest in the twins. So it just completely flies over their head.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because like that's something Hermione points out to Ron is, oh, you'll just go with the best looking person who will have you. And he doesn't, because he is so enamored with Hermione, he doesn't even understand, oh, you actually did end up with a very attractive person. And so that is an interesting call out. I hadn't thought about that line specifically before. I like what this chapter does for the character of Parvati too, in that before she seemed very much just like the annoying friend, just a giggler who is friends with Trelawney. That's how she's characterized. But she seems so cool and normal in this chapter of like, that's just what she's a regular person. And she comes off so well. I love it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get the Hermione reveal. Everybody's reactions. That is one bad Parvati moment though, where it says she's like unflatteringly surprised or something like that. But she's Crumb's date. I'm like, oh, Hermione, and she's showing off those new teeth. Harry's like, how did I never notice that? And
that perfectly sleek hair. I think that's the reason nobody recognizes her at first. It's the missing of the bushy hair that they're so used to seeing on her. Because I think if she had her natural hair, I think people would have noticed.
It's her signature.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Fleamont Potter. The champions make their entrance, head on up to the maid table for dinner. Percy has been promoted, and he shows up to Harry. That's the first thing he says. I've been promoted. My next note was Crouch has man cold. And so, Laura, I don't know if you've seen those memes of like, anytime men get sick, it's the end of the world. Injured is one thing, like, oh, I got a broken ankle. Don't even worry about it. But a slight little cough, I'm out of commission. And that's Barty Crouch right now. He can't make it out of his house. He got man cold. Harry bites back a sick burn though, when he's like, he almost thinks to say, has he stopped calling you Weatherby? They order some food. And I love this note. It's such a sweet moment when Harry looks over at Hermione and he says, for once, she didn't seem to care about Spew. Because she's having such a good time. She's a little princess at the ball. I love it. Igor tells Crumb to zip it because he's giving away all the secrets of the school. And Dumbledore says, hey, let the kids have fun, all right? If they want to get their Mac on, Dumbledore's all for that. And Kakarot tries to say, like, we don't want to share all the secrets of our school. And that's when Dumbledore's like, I don't know all the secrets of Hogwarts. The other day, I found a cool, weird little room. Definitely won't come up later. Anyway, Fred and Fleur and Roger Davies. I love the like that moment.
I know
I
about
so
Peeves being expelled from Beauxbaton. Yeah.
And he's just staring at her. And, Harry says he's just more enraptured in what she looks like than what she says. And then he like kind of comes to it. Yeah, like that. Bangs the table too.
He's like, yeah, whatever, girl. Like,
That's
whatever
right.
you say.
Whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Hermione's teaching Crumb to say her last name. And that's when I wrote down MuggleCast fact. All right. Because I learned that from you guys. I don't need to reiterate it though. But yeah, Dumbledore's Fantasia moment. He makes all the tables shoot against the wall and conjures up the dance floor. It's looking nice. And it's time to dance. And as you noted, Parvati saves the day when it says that she leads Harry on the dance floor. So good job, Parvati. Another good Parvati thing, she's 100% right about Moody. I remember you guys talking about this on your episode of MuggleCast, but this is just not okay because Moody, listeners, what happens is he walks up to Harry, says, "Nice socks, Potter," and walks away. Because he can see through. Laura, you would have been in trouble with your socks.
I know. I'd be called out.
Mm-hmm. And so Moody's able to see through his clothes. And I don't like that sentence. And neither did Parvati.
No, she was right to be uncomfortable. It raises a number of questions about
like, this definitely shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. Certainly not in a school with minor children.
One of the things I do, so one of the refrains from MuggleCast is we criticize because we care.
Yes.
I sweep things under the rug and just go, it's just a fun little book, and we keep plowing forward. But I think I had an episode with, I forget the name of the podcast, but one of the things it reiterated was, I just like to assume the best of intentions, the most wholesome motive that you could. But this is one of those ones that it's even hard to do for this, because not only is it like something really, really weird, it's called attention to. Like JK even knew this was weird, and she called attention to it specifically in her book. I guess she might've been like halfway through writing it and was like, yeah, that is kind of odd, but I need it for the plot. So I'll just admit that it's odd.
I was going to say, do you think that it is potentially a red herring? Just in terms of this character, like without getting into spoiler territory, right? Like thinking about Mad-Eye Moody as we know him. Mm-hmm. Like,
I think so.
Is this something he would do? Yeah.
Yeah, I think what comes to my mind even more is something else I've heard from MuggleCast is that this book was written very quickly, and it was one of the more rushed ones. And so perhaps some of these things that if you added a little more thought to, you'd be like, maybe I wouldn't have included that,
Yeah. I also, I think it's really important to always, not that it makes it okay, but to always consider the time period in which these books were written, right? And I truly do think that, and I remember when I read this as an 11-year-old, I didn't think too deeply about it. I was like, oh, that's funny. He
100%
called Harry out in his socks, and then I didn't take it any further. It's not until you get older. And I think this resonates with a lot of life experiences people have, where it's like, as an adult, you reflect back on some things that maybe you saw or experienced growing up and realize like, oh, that would not fly today.
Yeah. That's like all of the Dursley stuff. Growing up, I would read it and just think, oh, it's like the evil stepmother type of thing. And now I just go, how is this allowed?
I know. Where is CPS?
Absolutely. So, like we said, Parvati, 100% right about Moody. the song ends, and I love when she goes, Harry says, I want to go sit down. And she goes, but this is a really good song. And Harry says, no, I don't like it. And the note afterwards said, Harry lied. Even like that song, he's like, no, I just won't dance anymore. I'm not good at it. Fred and Angelina are tearing it up, though. I need to see that. Max that. All right, I need that in the HBO adaptation. Did you see we got so many of the new cast members?
Yeah, we actually chatted about that on our we plugged it on the most recent episode of MuggleCast, and we're going to be doing a bonus on it coming up soon.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So love that. But this is where Harry and Ron really start to stink, because this is when they start to even more ignore their dates, say they don't want to dance with them. It's okay for Parvati, though, because another dude shows up, and I like that she goes above and beyond for Harry in this chapter, because she even turns to him at this point when I think she's been freed from the responsibility of having to do this. But she goes, is it all right with you? Or something like that. She asks his permission, essentially. And he wasn't even paying attention to her, because he just goes, what? And she says, never mind. And she rolls on out. So good for her having some fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, she was clearly treating it like a date, and Harry wasn't.
Yeah.
To him, he was just, okay, this is a girl that I can bring so that I don't look stupid when I'm the only champion who doesn't have a date.
Yeah, I think if I'm like judging the two of them, Harry and Ron, I give a little more leeway to Harry just based on everything going on here. But then we get one of Ron's worst moments right afterwards, where Hermione comes over and she's trying to be nice, have fun. Have you seen Victor? He's gone to get his drinks, and Ron is just a jerk. He accuses her of cheating. He basically says, like, the only reason Crumb would want to go with you is because he's trying to get to Harry. And I think it hurts because we know he's saying this not because he's trying to insult Hermione, but because he's just jealous. He's supremely jealous. He's an immature boy, and he doesn't know how else to. I think he's like trying to convince her to get away from Crumb. But in doing so, he's insulting her tremendously. The text even says it looks like she was slapped in the face. And again, Jim Dale's narration, his voice acting for how hurt Hermione's voice is in this moment of like, I would never help him out with this. I want Harry to it eats me up inside every time.
I know. Yeah. Well, and this, this is Ron projecting his insecurity onto Hermione and making it her problem. I think what really ups the ante on this for Ron as well is not only is Hermione here with another guy, she's here with Ron's literal Quidditch hero. So he's not only jealous, but he's feeling extremely shown up.
Yeah, he's the most famous guy there besides Harry.
Right.
And, it's a weird way to say it, but Crumb's fame is a little more earned in that it's like stuff he actually did, and so he's the most capably famed person, I guess you could say. So I get it. But he treats her terrible. Hermione storms off. Ron also drives off Padma. I love that note where it said that the Bobaton boy just conjured up another guy for them to dance with.
Yeah.
Ludo and McGonagall are dancing. Somebody knew that in Quizzitch. Got it right. Gives her a little kiss on the hand. Ooh. Ludo comes over, talks to Percy for a bit. Ron says, bro, let's go for a walk. Talking to Harry, not Percy. He would never call Percy bro. So they walk out of there.
Not.
They head on outside. Snape and Igor are having a little lover's tryst, a little spat out there. I just loved in the previous chapters when he shows up. You've been ignoring me this whole time, Snape. Where are you?
Listen, we have this shared history together, and only you can understand this, and you've been ignoring me.
We've had bonded trauma, please.
Right.
Snape's blasting bushes out of the way. He's catching kids. Miss Fawcett is a little rule breaker because she's mentioned as one of the people. And in an earlier chapter, she was one of the characters who tried to illegally jump over the age line. And I was like, all right, girl, you keep trying to break all the rules. Yeah. He gets to Harry and Ron. What are you doing? We're walking here. Well, keep walking then. And they move along and find themselves dropping some eaves on Hagrid and Maxime. And I like when Ron is afraid to walk past Fleur because Harry goes, "We have a clear path out of here." But Fleur is getting her Mac on with Roger. And he's like, "No, we're not going." And one of my favorite moments, Harry says, like, it was impossible not to listen. You know, he said, I could just stick my fingers in my ears and just not listen, but I'm going to listen is basically how it comes across.
Right.
So they drop some eaves. We learn that Hagrid is half giant. Dad's a man. Mum's a giant. Bit of a nasty shock for him when he found out.
Yeah.
Maxime doesn't take too kindly to his assumption, though, that she also is a half giant, and she ditches him, and Hagrid just wanders off to his own hut. The boys head back inside. The Patil twins are crushing it with like pretty what I assume is most of the Beauxbaton boys who showed up all around them. More to the fact, the most like outgoing, good-looking people in their year, and the boys didn't even notice it.
I know.
Ron tells Harry that the Giants are no good, and Hagrid is chill, but this could be a total PR nightmare for Hogwarts if this gets out. Hope nobody writes an article about it. Anyway, the dance is ending, and Ron and Harry about to head up when Cedric says, "Hold up, bro. Got some super clear advice for you to repay you for helping me." And he tells Harry to take his egg and have a little soak in the bath. You know what? You can even use the prefect's bathroom. Password's Pine Fresh. You're welcome. Anyway, got to go say goodnight to my date. You know, Cho, the girl you like. Anyway, the one I got to first, like how I got to the snitch first in Quidditch. Hufflepuff, yay! I'm sure he said all that. And the chapter ends with Ron and Hermione having a fight in the common room. And, you know, I love Harry's note of saying, I think, you know, because Ron goes, "She's just missing the point." And Harry goes, "I think she did have a point. I'm not going to say it, but I think she did." And that's the end of the chapter. Yay. All right, now listeners, moving on to our favorite lines. So in this section, we just highlight the one-liners, moments, things we thought were funny, emotional, impactful, meaning, whatever. I have a few. Do you have a few or just one or two?
I do.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I've got a shorter one and then a lengthier one.
Great. Well, how about we bounce back and forth, and I'll say my
Sure.
first one. My first one, there's so many good moments in this one. I liked when the setup for like the description of the castle with I won't read the whole thing, but like there's the Durmstrang ship's portholes were glazed with ice. Like Hogwarts at Christmas time is just wonderful. I love the vibe. Just incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But on that same page, my favorite line is, "Twitchy little ferret, aren't you, Malfoy?" said Hermione.
I know, I love that.
Such a
good line.
What about you, Laura?
So we've called it out, I think, a couple of times, but I love the Larry fights. That's the one from the fat lady. You know, she and Violet have been hitting those chocolate liqueurs a bit hard. And it's funny because you mentioned we're talking about Half-Blood Prince over on MuggleCast right now, and we just got to another Christmas chapter where the fat lady has been struggling to contain herself. And
Nice.
because she clearly has a pretty bad hangover, she decides that the new password should be abstinence, which I think it has a layered meaning for other things happening in the book too.
6. Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly about her trouble sort of like knowing her limits. And it was really fun revisiting this and seeing, oh, some things never change.
New year, new me, turning over a new leaf.
Right.
Dry January for the fat lady.
So yeah, loved Larry fights.
Very good. One of my other ones was, it's what you mentioned, but the one right after it. So I still can't work out how you two got the best looking girls in the year, muttered Dean. Oh, it was Dean, not Seamus. I was wrong again, listeners. I keep getting it wrong.
I was wrong too.
But Ron's follow-up line, "Animal magnetism," said Ron, gloomily pulling stray threads out of his cuffs.
Nah, man, I'm sorry, but Ron,
That was all Harry. It was all Harry.
This is a case where you're riding Harry's coattails, my man. Like that's the
You're
only
welcome.
reason. Yeah.
What's another one you got?
So my other one is actually an exchange we talked about between Dumbledore and Karkaroff, where they're talking about their castle secrets.
Mm-hmm.
And Dumbledore says, "Oh, I would never dream of assuming I know all of Hogwarts' secrets, Igor. Only this morning, for instance, I took a wrong turn on the way to the bathroom and found myself in a beautifully proportioned room I've never seen before, containing a really rather magnificent collection of chamber pots. When I went back to investigate more closely, I discovered that the room had vanished, but I must keep an eye out for it. Possibly it is only accessible at 5:30 in the morning, or it may only appear at the quarter moon, or when the seeker has an exceptionally full bladder." This is just classic Dumbledore.
Absolutely.
And I
And
love
I
it.
like right afterwards when it like Harry guffawed and he
Yeah.
noticed like even though Percy looked disappointed, he like could have sworn Dumbledore winked at him or something. Yeah. Those are my favorite, for all the critiques we could give Dumbledore, his whimsy knows no bounds, and I love it
Absolutely.
so much. Um a lot of my favorite lines I basically called out during our coverage. There was the one of "Fine," snapped Padma, and she got up and went to join Parvati and the Bobaton's boy, who conjured up one of his friends to join them so fast that Harry could have sworn he had zoomed him there by a summoning charm. And then my other really favorite one at the very end of the chapter, I said just a little bit of it, but Harry didn't say anything. He liked being back on speaking terms with Ron too much to speak his mind now, but he somehow thought that Hermione had gotten the point much better than Ron had. So, and that speaks for itself. But I like the
Definitely.
attitude of, we just started being friends again. Probably not the time to challenge you on this.
You got to pick your battles.
And that's all of our favorite lines. So moving on now, listeners, to our Transfiguration section. And so this is the section where we highlight differences that the movies made from the books. And there's a lot with this chapter, quite a few. One thing I won't bother going into the details about, listeners, is the clothing changes, because there's so many. There's so many different clothing changes of like the famous one that I'll say is in the book, Hermione's dress is blue, but the one that they used in the movie is pink. And it's you can actually even like buy it at Universal. They have that on sale there. And some people getting a real tizzy about that one, saying like, I always had pictured this blue one, da 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 da. But I thought, I think the pink one looks cool too.
Yeah,
But
well, I think that, also with that kind of thing, costuming has to look at what's going to be most complementary to the actor. And Emma's color is clearly pink. I mean, it's not even just in the Yule Ball sequence. Throughout the series, when she's wearing like regular street clothes, she tends to wear a lot of pink.
yeah, would you call that as like being a summer, not a winter?
Yeah,
or
I
something?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So that's the big one. But then again, if you were to go through, listeners, you would find a lot of different changes that as far as
Definitely.
clothing goes. Ron doesn't remove the frills. That's another one to point out. He stays looking like his great aunt Muriel, or no, great aunt Tessie. Great aunt Tessie.
Right.
That's what he says. But what else do we have? Mad Eye doesn't dance in the movie. He kind of sits in the corner and he just bobbles his feet a little bit. And he has his dead ferret, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get to dance with Sinistra. There is no dinner. That's no mission. There's a lot of omissions, just like pretty much every chapter. They just go in and dance right away from the beginning. But we still have Parvati saying, like, take my waist, lead the way. Ron and Hermione's fight that they have takes place on the stairs. And Harry kind of gets roped into it, where she's like, off to bed, both of you. But in the book, as we just talked about before, that takes place later in the dormitory just between Harry and Ron. We do get one of the things that happens in this chapter is, Snape blasting apart the bushes, exposing kids snogging, as it were. And I'm sure you know this, but listeners might not. There is a deleted scene of that. That's not in the movie, but there is a deleted scene of Snape going through and with Kakarov and finding students. I think he even opens a carriage door. He's like, get out of there.
Yeah, he's ruining everyone's fun.
I know.
Yeah, come on, man.
He might be doing some good work though, if you know what I'm saying. Might be.
Yes.
Like, why isn't Dumbledore doing that? But anyway, we already talked about Dumbledore was like, let them hang out. It's cool. But Hagrid and Maxine moment, they don't have that in the movie where they talk about him being half giant. He accuses her. But they do dance. They dance rather promiscuously at the end of their scene together at that like set piece. And the final one, Cedric does give Harry the hint, but it's not the night of the Yule Ball. It takes place when he gives Harry the hint. It's later on the bridge when Harry's talking to Hermione, and it's probably like the next day or day after, different day.
That's right. Thank you for calling that out. I had forgotten about that. Take
your egg and mull things over under the hot water.
Yeah, man. And I have to say, even the hint felt even more cryptic in the movie with just the way that I'm sure it was a direction choice, but the way that Robert Pattinson delivered it definitely felt like he was setting Harry up for a roast a little bit.
Yeah, I just look at him and think, you're so handsome. I don't know. I can't hear any words you're saying.
I just see this handsome man telling me to take a bath.
My mother warned me this would happen. That's why you don't go to boarding school, kids. All right, moving on now to our Golden Snitch section, which is, like I said before, behind the scenes, lore grabs, certain things that are mentioned that you might not know that much about. So the first one, the conjunctivitis curse. So in the letter that Sirius writes to Harry, he goes, yo, you should have used this, or sorry, I would have suggested that you use this, but Harry, your way was better. But the conjunctivitis curse was a curse that irritated the target's eyes, forcing them to swell shut. Dragons were notably susceptible to this curse because while their hide made them resistant to most spells, their eyes remained vulnerable, as Sirius says. The Oculus potion was able to counteract this curse, and a variation of this curse existed, which was purple in color that completely blinded the target, which could also not be counteracted with the Oculus potion. And the hand movement, I always like doing it, even though not everybody watches, but the hand movement, it looks a lot like an eye with the tear duct. It goes whoop and then down. So Laura saw that, everybody. She agreed. And just a little behind the scenes thing with it. The etymology, conjunctivitis, is the technical term for pink eye, which alludes to its effects of irritating the eye. And that's all we got for that one. Moving on to the next one, Cribbage's Wizarding Crackers. Now, I looked this up. Some of the time I know the lore, other times I just look it up on the Harry Potter wiki. And it's funny, there's just one sentence. Cribbage's Wizarding Crackers was a brand of wizard crackers. Many of these crackers were given out at the Christmas lunch at Hogwarts on December 25th, 1994. But, listeners, if you click on wizard crackers, not Cribbage's specifically, but wizard crackers, you get taken to another page, and it talks about how fun they are and all the little extra gifts included. I know in like the previous book, book 3, they opened it up and Dumbledore pulled out a hat and put it on top of Snape. Then it says, unlike Muggle crackers, wizard crackers went off with a bang as loud as a cannon blast, enveloping everyone nearby in a cloud of blue smoke, rather than just a small pop. The gifts in comparison to the Muggle counterpart were often far more unique, as we've said, giving out the Christmas feast. Some behind-the-scenes things I thought were funny. In the various PS1 video game adaptations of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, there's one in which Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter have a duel with wizard crackers, and they're joined by Vincent Crabbe and Gregory Goyle.
I remember this.
But in the PC version, Harry only fights Draco, but they fight with the wizard crackers. So you played that one?
I did. Yeah, that you just unlocked a core memory for me.
Some of those old games are just magical.
They are, and I think there's so much just appreciation in the fandom for those older games, because I mean, especially with Sorcerer's Stone, graphics in that one were rough.
Yeah, Hagrid PS1.
I mean, listen, we all have PS1 Hagrid days, right? Like I have my days where I'm just like not feeling 100% today. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's so funny reflecting on that, because I remember at the time playing it, they did so many things to gamify that story that were not germane to the story or the plot of the book. And I remember feeling very scandalized at the time. I was like, what the heck? Like, why are we hopping over beds of lava in herbology? Like, I don't understand this.
Yeah. No, those games are just, they have a special place in my heart. I know you guys are playing at least, not Micah,
Eric
is playing
and their wife. Yeah.
Playing on Twitch. Listeners, if you want to watch Eric play the Chamber of Secrets game.
It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I loved it so much. Another thing too is like some of the major differences between console versions, like in like the PC version, I think for Chamber of Secrets, or maybe the PS1. If you go to the back left room, like in the entrance hall, you go left at the stairs and go to this back room. There's a little special portrait that you can go to Diagon Alley through, but that's not in the Xbox version for some reason. They just completely got rid of it. I was like, why didn't you include that across the board? Because I have the Xbox, and I was like, well, I would have loved to have gone to Diagon Alley.
I know. Yeah. No. I just don't think I don't think they understood the appetite that existed for Harry Potter games at that point. So I just don't think the various game like manufacturers were communicating with each other.
Yeah. But now I get to watch YouTubers play it, which is mainly how I consume video games these days. But
that's
barely play
completely
myself.
Fair.
Moving on to our last golden snitch, fairies. A fairy was a small humanoid magical beast with large insect-like wings, which were either transparent or multicolored. Muggles' impressions of the fairies was a generous one, having been ingrained into children's minds in the form of fairy tales. Wizards believed that all of the magical creatures in the world, the fairy, along with the unicorn, had received the best Muggle press. They're related to the pixie and the doxy. They can reach to a height of 1 to 5 inches. Now, there's a whole lot you could say about them here. There's a lot on the wiki, listeners, if you want to check it out. But for the sake of time, the only thing I want to call out here that I thought was really funny was in the film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, Mad-Eye Moody, I can't spoil it, Mad-Eye Moody comments that Fleur Delacour is as much a fairy princess as I am. While Moody may simply be referring to the Muggle perception of fairies, this may also suggest that fairies have societies complex enough to have royalty. I just thought that was a funny little thing.
That is funny.
Oh, but that's all we got for Golden Snitches. Laura, do you need to take a break before we move on to the next chapter?
No, I think we're good to keep rolling.
Let's keep it rolling. So moving on now, listeners, to Chapter 24, Rita Skeeter's Scoop. Oof. And if you thought Christmas was fun, it's Boxing Day. Yay. It's a nice, lazy morning. Everybody's kind of like fun hungover from the night before. Ron and Hermione call a truce. I was a bit surprised by that they were like, they didn't keep the row going. They were just like, all right, let's chill. I think they did it for Harry.
Unusually mature for that dynamic. I was surprised to see it because even in Half-Blood Prince, I mean, the regression is so real.
Yeah. I think like perhaps, and we'll see how I feel about it once I in-depth podcast through Half-Blood Prince. But one of the things I feel that I've noticed about Ron is he is a little more emotionally attuned than it's led to believe. And perhaps upon reflection, he was like, it's not actually her that I'm mad at here, or at least maybe he was a little more aware of why he was mad. And she did have a point and even recognized Harry was right too. Whereas like in their previous fights, like in book 3, I think he had a pretty good point about being upset about Scabbers being attacked. And so that's not something to just sweep under the rug. Your animal could die. But this one, maybe a little more. And he's been fighting with Harry all year. He's like, I don't need another fight. Let's just forget this one. Anyway, they call it a truce. They tell Hermione about how Hagrid is a half giant. She has the same reaction. She's like, who cares? All right, Hagrid's chill.
Right.
Okay, so this was interesting, and I wanted to hear your take on this. Hermione, when they tell him, she complains about the bigotry that werewolves receive. Now, one of the things I hear get called out is, in book 3, she calls Lupin a werewolf. Like, you werewolf. You know, there's that moment when they're in the hut. And people will say that for all of Hermione's care for house elves, it doesn't seem to be equated across the board as far as like her care for all magical creatures. But I disagree. I think the times that she insults, the times that she does do a racism, it's because she's angry, not because she actually like views the other being as lesser. Now, again, that doesn't excuse it, but it does like explain. So in the werewolf incident, it looked like the werewolf Lupin was about to kill them, so I could understand her fear there. And then, later with the centaur, she's upset with divination, not necessarily at the centaur himself.
Right. Well, and I think with Hermione, and I think this is true of a lot of us, I think we all have we have these unconscious biases that even though like our higher brains are aware of them being wrong and like we're able to do the work to deconstruct that within ourselves and like understand what is it about that that like made me jump to that conclusion, right? I think it is a pretty natural fear-based response for Hermione to have the reaction to Lupin that she does in book 3. Again, doesn't make it okay, but from her perspective, she's known that he's a werewolf the entire year. She's kept that identity secret because she understands that it's a class of beings that are commonly discriminated against. And I think herself being Muggle-born in this world, she can also kind of relate to being like, I know what it feels like to be an outsider in this world, right? So she's feeling like, she's also 13. I was keeping this secret for you, and now I think you're about to kill me.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I completely agree. I like that call out too of, we're all a bit inconsistent, and there are times that there's so many things, like you said, our higher brain, we can recognize and go, I feel this way. It's not okay that I do. I'm going to and work on that. And then, that's what we all should strive for. And then there's times that we're a bit inconsistent in that regards. One of my favorite things that my pastor says is, people say that the church is full of hypocrites, but that's not true. We always have room for one more. And, just say like, everybody is hypocritical at some point.
Is that not the human experience?
Yeah. It just, you work on it and you improve and you keep moving forward. So constant vigilance, one might say. But anyway, so I just thought that werewolf line was interesting. The holidays march on. Harry's trying to figure out his egg, but, screw Cedric's crappy dating Cho looking tall, handsome advice. All right, we don't need none of that. School's back in session, and the gang heads to Care of Magical Creatures. But, Laura, Hagrid's not there. He's not in there. And I wrote down G.I. Grubbly Plank because I never noticed that it described her as having close cropped gray hair. And is that like the military cut? Like I just pictured the G.I. Joe person.
Honestly, when you put it that way, because I think I had forgotten about that too. It does sort of feel like we get this from her character throughout the series too. Like she is someone who is very well practiced with regard to like the applied science of her work. She's not afraid to get literally in the weeds with the creatures. So I guess I don't know that I would want to have super long hair when I was working with that either.
That's a good point.
It's probably a liability.
A lot of moms cut their hairs just because of babies, Yeah. And so if you're dealing with magical creatures, all right, I get it. And she is a great teacher. Harry asks her, "Where's Hagrid?" And she's, "Mind your business," what she says to him. I love it when he goes, "But I do mind." And she goes, "I don't care." She respects her colleagues' privacy. I think the substitute teachers at Hogwarts are sometimes better than the actual teachers.
Yeah.
She's wonderful. But Harry is wondering what happened to Hagrid, and Malfoy's like, "Calm down. He wasn't attacked. He's just been made a social faux pas of." And I'm like, why does he always have the newspaper? But he pulls out the newspaper, hands it to Harry, and I wrote down, anyway, someone did, in fact, write an article about Hagrid, about being a half giant. Dang it. I told him not to do that in the last chapter. Oh, well. The newspaper article, lovingly and cleverly entitled Dumbledore's Giant Mistake, reveals that Hagrid is a no-good, bloodthirsty son of a giant who's just trying to cozy up to Harry and hurt some students and care magical creatures. Basically the summation of that thing. At the end of it, I love how angry Harry is. And he goes, and what's up with him? All right, flubberworms don't even have teeth. Talking about Crab getting bit. Again, something else that somebody knew in Quizzitch.
Aw, thanks. But I mean, how does I don't know, how does something like that get printed? Because surely most adults also understand that flobberworms don't have teeth.
Can I just imply something about news media that might surprise you, Laura?
Well, okay. Never, you know what? I take it back. I take it back. Point made.
Yep. So, like I said, Harry's ticked off. Malfoy is acting all triumphant. But honestly, I feel like he should be a bit embarrassed that he didn't know Hagrid was a half giant, because he goes, I just thought he swallowed a bottle of Skelegro or something. And it's like, no, like Hermione put it together. I would have thought you might have figured it out, especially with how like racist he is and looking for issues he is. Like he might have, and he's pretty smart. We know that, you know, he's not far below Hermione in the year. So anyway, I just thought that was odd. My next note was, LOL, Grubbly Plank, y'all paying attention over there, because the boys can't go anywhere near the unicorns. It's one of the unfortunate things about this lesson. I think she's a great teacher, but this is like, what did you expect to happen, Grubbly Plank? You've got 14-year-old boys who don't get to go anywhere near the action. And it's just the unicorns and the girls over there having a good time. But class ends, and as you would expect, all the girls are like, that rocked. That was amazing. We got to hang out with Unicorn. Harry and Ron are like, we got to hang out with Malfoy. So we didn't think it was that good of a class. But Harry and Ron show Hermione the article, and they decide that they need to go talk to Hagrid. So that evening, they mosey their way on down to his hut, and they say, open up. But sadly, he doesn't answer. And even sadder is Fang's little scratchings at the door.
I know. Fang knows who's there.
Yeah, he wants to. These are your buddies. They could help you out.
Right.
Listeners, when you're sad, companionship and community is what you need.
Seriously.
It's just wonderful.
Even when it feels like it's the last thing that you want, you probably need it.
I'll never be afraid to reach out right into the retoldpodcast@gmail.com. But no, I love that. But Hagrid doesn't answer, so they leave. A week goes by, and they head off to Hogsmeade. They pass Victor, going for a little swim. You know, he's out in his swim trunks on the boat, taking a dive. But they look around Hogsmeade for Hagrid, don't see him anywhere, so they head to the Three Broomsticks, where they run into Ludo Bagman. And he asks Harry for a private little word. Harry's like, what are you doing talking to all them goblins? Nothing. They're just asking about Crouch. Fair enough. He admits that he doesn't know where Barty or Bertha is. And, okay, Laura, I was surprised by this. It seems like he low-key has been doing investigatory work to find Bertha. Because when Harry asks about it, he goes, well, she definitely showed up here or in Albania because she met with her cousin or whatever. And then she was set to go to this other place, but the trail goes cold there. And it's like, those are the words of somebody who actually did some work. I thought he was just being lackadaisical about it.
Yeah. The impression that I get, though, is that he did start doing some work, but he kind of started a little too late, and that he was being lackadaisical about it for too long. Because Harry has that reflection in that moment of thinking like, well, yeah, about time that you started trying to figure out what's happening. So,
but since it was Ludo, I thought anything is a good sign from him. Like, he actually did show some game, no matter how late it was. Definitely too late, though. So don't know where Bertha is. Harry, he goes, so by the way, Harry, do you want to cheat? You know, cheat for this, you know, you cool with cheating? And Harry's like, nah, I'm good. And that's basically the second half of their conversation of him being like, are you sure you don't want to cheat? And I like Harry's note when he says, somehow accepting advice from this stranger didn't feel the same as getting advice from somebody he actually knew. Which that's like an interesting like moral quandary, but
Yeah.
I thought it
Well,
made sense.
I think so. And I think especially at a time where Harry knows that there is someone connected to all of this who has it out for him and he doesn't know who it is. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be taking advice from anyone that I didn't have a close personal relationship with either.
Good point. And he's being a little shifty, that Ludo. We get a random Fred and George appearance. You know, they just show up. Hey, can we get you a drink? And no, I'm out of here. Going to go hang out with my goblins. So Ludo leaves. Goblins follow him. And Harry rejoins his friends. Ron comes up with the name Spug. Good job, Laura. Just then, a wild Rita appears. And Harry says to himself, do I want to cause a scene today? Yeah, I want to cause a scene today.
Yeah, let's go. Let's roll.
That's right. He calls out Rita in front of everybody. Like, you jerk. How could you say that about him? He said it more manly than I did just then, listeners. But she calls him out, and I like her reactions to it, you know, where she says her smile falters just slightly, but she brings it back because she is, you know, as like slimy as she is a professional. She knows how to get a story, and she kind of responds how an expert like journalist would to this of like, so do you want to talk about this? Talk about how maybe he's your substitute father? Which is the worst thing she probably could have said. Hermione chimes in saying like, basically you suck. And Rita responds to her as well. Like, because I think Hermione brings up Ludo saying like, you're trying to get a story about Ludo. You do anything for a story. And Rita says, hey, I could tell you about Ludo, stories about Ludo that would make your hair curl, which I just remembered. I don't include it in the Transfiguration, so I'll say it here because I forgot. But there's that line in the movie when Mad-Eye Moody says, I can tell you stories about your father that would make even your greasy hair curl. And I wonder if that was like inspired by this line.
Probably.
Yeah. Even though she goes, not that your hair needs that curling.
Meow.
I know, a little cat fight. So Hermione says, forget this, let's go get Hagrid. And I love how she basically says, consider the source. Hagrid, he cannot be taken out by somebody like her, of all people. Like, to be offended and insulted by somebody as low as this person, no. And she not only leads them to Hagrid's, she runs to Hagrid's, the text says. She bolts out running to his place, and she's banging on the door. She says, open up, Hags. We don't care if your mama was a bloodthirsty giant. Just then, who should answer the door? It's Dumbledore. We want to see Hagrid. And he goes, I surmised as much.
Yeah. He has that big, perfect brain.
Yeah.
Hagrid
is looking rough, doing his best Eeyore impression. You know, it's cloudy, it's sunny here, but it's raining somewhere. Dumbledore says, cheer up, Hagrid. You see, these three still want to know you. And Harry argues, like, yeah, we like you, man. You're pretty cool with us. And I like that Dumbledore looks away even when Hagrid's crying. Not that it's, you know, there's certain ways that would come across as bad, but in this context, it sounds respectful. You know, he's like giving Hagrid his privacy. He keeps his eyes towards the ceiling. This is one of my favorite moments in the whole series. This whole interaction that takes place in the hut with them all trying to cheer Hagrid up. And to me, one of the most incredible things about Hagrid is he is the most like emotionally available and transparent characters. He just shows his raw emotions so much. And, you know, as you've said before, you get older, certain things are more meaningful. And this seems so meaningful to me, of Harry being able to have this, you know, pseudo father figure, a good representation of somebody who can show their emotions. Does he always do it the best? No, but he's emotionally honest all of the time. And so I love that about Hagrid in this moment.
Me too.
Yeah. But Dumbledore tells him that many of the parents don't care, bro. It's chill, all right? You can teach here. They've actually told me they would be quite upset if you left or if I fired you. We get one of Barry's favorite lines that he'll mention in the favorite line section. And Dumbledore mentions Aberforth, all right? And I thought of Micah, as always. It's this wild moment. Listeners, if you know, you know. But Anyway, Aberforth is mentioned. We get a name drop. We find out Dumbledore has a brother. I guess that's what we could take away from this interaction.
Yes. A brother who is definitely, I would say, if you were to introduce Aberforth and not make the connection that he's Dumbledore's brother, it would be shocking to learn that he was, because these two could not be more opposed, more unalike.
That's right. And I do like when, Dumbledore mentions Aberforth's crime, as it were, or what he was accused of. And I do like the moment where he says, did he let that get to him? No, he took it in stride and kept his pride. Now, to be fair, he can't read. At least I don't know if he can. So perhaps it wasn't so much his bravery as it was just ignorance that he was able to keep going.
But you know what? Dumbledore. He kept his chin up.
That's right. That's right. During his lowest, weirdest moment. Anyway, Dumbledore says resignation not accepted. See you at breakfast, and rolls on out of there. Hagrid shows them the picture of his dad, then hypes up Dumbledore. He says, that's what's so great about Dumbledore. He gives people second chances. He doesn't care where you're from or what kind of family you're from, just as long as you got talent, as long as you can do magic. And it's a very sweet moment. I love one of the brightest spots of the series, I feel like, is Hagrid's love for Dumbledore. So pure and almost childlike, Hagrid hopes that Harry will win the tournament, and Harry, he asks Harry, you figured out that egg? Harry lies. And I do appreciate that moment where he says, lying to Hagrid didn't feel the same as lying to anybody else. And at the end of the chapter, Harry goes, all right, time to lock in. Let's take a bath. And that's how the chapter ends.
I love that.
Yay. So moving on now, listeners, to our favorite lines. I got a few. Laura, do you got a few?
I do.
Fantastic. I always have to ask because sometimes my guests will just have one, and I don't want to be like, well, I have a bunch. And then they're all like, I only have one. But very good. I will say one of mine first, and we'll bounce back and forth like we did with the last chapter. This is Hermione speaking after the Care of Magical Creatures class. I'm not going to pretend it didn't make a nice change, having a proper Care of Magical Creatures lesson for once. But I do want Hagrid back. Of course I do. And this is why I liked it so much, this last moment. Hermione added hastily, quailing under Harry's furious stare. Harry hardly ever gets mad at Hermione. I hardly ever see moments where he shows any type of rage towards Hermione. But I think it goes to show just his immense love for Hagrid, and the fact that Hagrid's been affronted, that he even shows upsetness towards her. So that was one of my favorite lines.
Totally. And I can see that too, because Harry's looking at Hermione and being like, listen, I know that you are really big on your education and all that, but this is way bigger than one course that we're probably going to, maybe end up dropping in a couple of years. I don't know.
Who's to say? Yeah. What's one of your favorite lines?
One of my favorites, and it's not dialogue, but it's Harry's introspection, specifically with regard to the hint that Cedric gives him. So Harry, had told Cedric exactly what was coming in the first task with the dragon, and Cedric's idea of a fair exchange had been to tell Harry to take a bath. There are so many great sort of like moments of narration in this series, or like Harry's internal thoughts that are funny. And this is just one of those funny moments. Like, yeah, I helped you prepare to battle this dragon, and you told me to just go take a bath.
Perhaps it was like sometimes at my house, I can't do work if my house is messy. Like, I got to clean it. I got to be in a clean space. Maybe Harry just stank. And Cedric was like, listen, you want to get in a good brain space? Have some self-care, take care of you, and then, you move on to the next step.
He's like, maybe you'll do better asking Cho out next time if you've bathed. I don't know, man.
Oh my, she said you stank, boy. My next favorite line, while they're in the pub and Harry shouts, who cares if he's half giant? Harry shouted. There's nothing wrong with him. The whole pub had gone very quiet. Madame Rosmerta was staring over from behind the bar, apparently oblivious to the fact that the flagon she was filling with mead was overflowing. I love it's so like cartoonish. I thought that was really funny. What's another one of yours?
So another one of mine, and I have a feeling I might have poached this one from you because I would be shocked if this wasn't one of yours. In the exchange in Hagrid's hut, where they're trying to pump Hagrid up and they're talking smack about Rita, and Harry refers to her as that cow, and then quickly looks at Dumbledore and is like, "Oh, sorry, Professor, I shouldn't be talking about, other grown-ups that way." And Dumbledore sort of looks up at the ceiling and twiddles his thumbs and says, "I've gone temporarily deaf and haven't any idea what you said, Harry."
I love that. And I even like Harry's response where he just goes, right.
It's like, "Oh, cool. You don't like her either. Got it."
Yep. Another quick one to say before my next big one was right after during the same scene in the Hogs or in the Three Broomsticks, Hermione stood up very abruptly, her butterbeer clutched in her hand as though it were a grenade. I just thought that was a fun description. But I love this one so much. During that exchange with Hagrid, "Come back and teach, Hagrid," said Hermione quietly. "Please come back. We really miss you." Hagrid gulped. More tears leaked out down his cheeks and into his tangled beard. There's so many reasons I like that. One, it's just a beautiful moment. It gives me like reminds me of when in this very same hut when Hermione's crying that I think it's just in the movie she was crying, but Hagrid comforts her about being called a mudblood. So it's like flipped there. And then even more important, she was the one who didn't want him back as a teacher. Like of all of them, she was the one that was against that. But here she cares so much for him that she's even like thrown that aside and it was the way she said very quietly, it was like pleading with him. I love that. Just love it.
Yeah. And there, I love that you called out the sort of like role reversal here, because we've seen this a couple of times with Hermione and Hagrid. We also see in book 3 when Harry and Ron are feuding with Hermione and they're not speaking to her, but Hermione is still helping Hagrid research for his case against the Ministry with Buckbeak, right? And so she's still going to Hagrid's cabin, and Hagrid is ultimately the one that kind of corners Harry and Ron and is like, "What are you doing? This is your friend. Like, I understand you're mad at her, but time to get over it."
Yeah, would have thought your friendship meant more.
Right. Oh, yes. That was such a great line. Yeah.
Beautiful. Like I said, he's one of the most emotionally attuned characters. And that moment's even funny too, because he says right afterwards, "Yeah, some people are weird about their pets."
And everyone was like,
looks at the camera.
Okay. Yeah, everyone broke the fourth wall. In that
Zach
moment,
Morris,
I was like, ooh.
Did you have any more favorite lines from this chapter?
I do. So also during this exchange where everyone's trying to convince Hagrid, like, it's okay, you're going to be able to come back to your job. Everybody doesn't hate you. And Dumbledore tells Hagrid, I've gotten all of these letters from parents who told me that they would be so ticked off if I were to sack you. And Hagrid kind of, instead of focusing on the positive, which is that he has people in his corner, he's focused on the fact that not everyone's in his corner. So he's like, not all of them. There are some of them that are going to want me gone. And Dumbledore says, "Really, Hagrid, if you are holding out for universal popularity, I'm afraid you will be in this cabin for a very long time. Not a week has passed since I became headmaster of this school when I haven't had at least one owl complaining about the way I run it. But what should I do? Barricade myself in my study and refuse to talk to anybody?" And it is such a good point and a good reminder that you can't please everybody. You simply can't. You have to do the best you can with what you have and ultimately be true to yourself at the end of the day. You want to be able to look yourself in the mirror, but understand that doesn't mean that everybody is going to like you or that everybody has to like you. You have to be comfortable with that knowledge.
Yeah, there's like, especially now doing more podcasting and putting my voice out there more. And I'm sure this is something you guys have experienced in spades, but like,
oh, totally.
The praise you'll get from some people is the reason you get praise from some people is the reason you draw criticism from others. And, you know, then my response in the early days of doing the podcast was like, you know what, I will be, and I didn't say it like this, but what it amounted to was I'll be less myself and I'll be more bland. And when you're bland, well, then nobody likes, like in trying to please everybody, you become apathetic. Like people are apathetic towards you. They don't care.
You please no one.
Yeah. And so I love that moment. You're not ever going to be accepted by because there's, like I said, some people, what you would please them with angers others. And it's like, but these things are worth doing. The good over here, even though it angers the bad over, like still worth doing. So yeah, that was my last favorite line. It's one of my absolute favorites, not only from this chapter, but from the book and from the series. I love it so much. One of the greats.
Same.
But that was my last one. Did you have any more?
That was my last one too.
Fantastic.
We're just over here on the same wavelength.
That's right. I love, there's an episode of Friends. Did you ever watch Friends?
You know, I never watched the full series, but I've seen episodes here and there. Yeah, I love this moment where Chandler is a little bit like the fat lady, a little drunk, and Rachel agrees with him about something, and finishes his sentence when he can't think of what it is. And he goes, "That's right. You and we've always been like," That's us. That's us right now. There we go.
Moving on now, listeners, to our Transfiguration section. And so with this one, not nearly as many as the one before. For the most part, it's a giant omission because we don't include this Rita subplot of her writing this article about Hagrid and getting information she's not really supposed to have. At least it's not called attention to at all. So Hagrid doesn't barricade himself in. Him and Maxime don't even have a spat in the movie. You know, it's pretty much dropped. You know, Hagrid tells Maxime. So one of the actual changes is that Hagrid in the movie tells Maxime about his dad, whereas in the book he tells the students. What I mean by that is the story of being able to pick his dad up and put him on the dresser. He doesn't tell Maxime that. He tells the trio that in the book. And then the other big change is, it's going to sound like a big change. It's not, but it's the only change I could think of, was we don't see Crumb diving off of the ship, but we do see him strutting across the screen with a bunch of girls following him. Yeah. And he has a massive shoulder sway when he's moving across, and, you know, gives Hermione a little smile, and she smiles back. And that takes place before the Yule Ball, I believe, rather than afterwards.
Yeah, they move some stuff around. They really, I think, tried to simplify the plot of Goblet of Fire for the movie, because there really is a lot going on in this story. And to your point, I mean, Rita's whole character is Miranda Richardson knocked it out of the park. She was great. Perfect Rita. But there is an entire storyline for her character that is just completely left out. So we only get like the gossip writer side of her story and nothing else. I definitely want to max that. One of my favorite moments is, and I can hear the music every time, when she just goes, "Concerned," and the quill just pops up, dink. But that's all we got for Transfiguration, listeners. Moving on to the golden snitches for this chapter. The first one, you already heard me mention it. Pull it up here, or at least I alluded to it. Sleek Easy's hair potion. So I think you mentioned it in the first chapter. So Sleek Easy's hair potion and scalp treatment was a hair care potion and scalp treatment that was invented by Fleamont Potter. Who's that, listeners? That's Harry's grandpa. It was originally sold with the slogan, 2 drops tames even the most bothersome Barnet. So that's funny. Noted as being suitable for all hair types on its label, it was particularly effective at taming bushy, unruly hair, allowing it to be styled sleek
However, the label apparently cautioned against use of the product by redheads, stating it would have unique results for them. I don't know what that means, but I wonder if that's like a
Interesting.
Hogwarts mystery thing. Because when you go onto the wiki, a lot of it is, there's a lot of Hogwarts mystery lore.
Yeah, that kind of does sound like a Hogwarts mystery thing. I don't think that's ever something that came out of the core series.
Yeah. Sign up for the Patreon listeners to find out as we cover Hogwarts mystery. Hello, Future Bear here. Just wanted to jump in real quick because you may have heard me say just then that on the Patreon we are covering Hogwarts mystery. Unfortunately, there is no Patreon yet. That is something we are working on though, and will hopefully come out very soon. And a Hogwarts mystery, like regular episodes about that, is something we're hoping to do, as well as a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, if you heard that and it didn't make sense, or you looked it up later and were like, there's no Patreon for this podcast, that's why. Anyway, back to the podcast. The potion was manufactured in China. Its listed ingredients were Gomus barbadensis, Asian dragon hair, and petroleum jelly. Great. Fleamont Potter was said to have quadrupled the family's wealth by inventing Sleek Easy's hair potion and selling the company at a vast profit when he retired. So listeners, if you're like, how the heck did Harry have all that gold in his vault? You can thank Fleamont Potter. All right. And then,
but nobody ever introduced Harry to the product that his grandfather invented, clearly.
Yeah, but then his name wouldn't be Harry anymore. They'd have to change it. Some behind the scenes, the labels for the film props are spelled Sleek Easies with an S, all right, at the very end. While the Harry Potter and the Goblet, while in the chapter, in the book, it's spelled with a Z. So they got that wrong. And I've noticed a lot of this doing these Golden Snitches. There are a lot of, from adaptation to adaptation, spelling changes. Same thing in the Hogwarts Mystery. They spell it S-L-E-A-K, where it's actually spelled S-L-E-E-K. So,
okay.
Yeah. Listeners, you'll thank me one day when you're doing Potter trivia, I'm sure. The next one, a unicorn. So, they were playing with unicorns and care magical creatures. And I should have done this. I might have for Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone for our American audience. Probably mentioned it there, but it's been so long, listeners, we all forgot. The unicorn was a white horse with a single horn sticking out of the middle of its forehead. The existence of unicorns was one of the worst kept secrets of the wizarding world, as unicorns were inextricably associated with magic in the Muggle world and were an iconic creature of magic. These majestic equines possessed potent magical properties, with their tail hairs being used as the core of a wand, and were designated by Garrick Ollivander as one of the supreme cores. Which was a distinction shared by only two other beasts. A unicorn was one rare possible corporeal Patronus form, so that's kind of cool. What is your Patronus, by the way?
My Patronus is an Irish wolfhound.
That sounds pretty cool. Irish, what does that look like? Irish wolfhound.
It's a big dog.
Irish wolf.
What's yours?
I never knew what mine was until I came on MuggleCast for that episode, because that was one of the questions asked. And if you could believe it, I forgot. I don't know. Maybe Future Berry will pop back in and say what it is here as the listeners hold their breath for it. But other things about the unicorn, we know that, the young ones only like girls, and the young ones were gold as well. So that's cool. Smart. They inhabited the forests of Europe. There is a potential illusion that perhaps they were included in the forests, the dark forest next to Hogwarts, because the national animal for Scotland is a unicorn.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The national animal. It's like how ours is a bald eagle. In America, theirs is a unicorn. And so having it being in a highland forest.
Wow, that's cool.
Look at that, listeners. Sometimes there's something cool here.
There's a lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah. In Lego Harry Potter years 1 through 4, Voldemort tries to sneak up on the unicorn in the Forbidden Forest with a knife and fork, but is scared off by Firenze, who shows him his fist. And that's silly. And that's all we got for oh no, that's a lie, listeners. I got last one. The last Golden Snitch is gobbledygook. So we mentioned goblins in this chapter, and the language that they speak was gobbledygook. It had been described as a harsh, rasping language, which made it sound distinctly inhuman. It was able to be spoken by some wizards, such as Barty Crouch Sr. and Dirk Cresswell and Albus Dumbledore. And then Miranda Goshawk includes it as one of the 72 languages in her, what book? I don't know. In one of her books. Let's see.
I wish I knew.
Yeah, there's a lot of Hogwarts legacy lore because, goblins play a big role in that.
Yep.
Hermione even mentions in this chapter the Goblin Rebellions. But gobbledygook, some etymology for it, or gibberish are synonyms of the word nonsense. It is unknown if wizards started calling the language gobbledygook because it sounded unlike any language they knew and just seemed like gibberish in their ears, or if it was called if the language itself was called gobbledygook by the goblins. So that's an interesting question.
I'm going to guess it was the former.
You just might be right.
Yeah, that just sounds like something they do.
I just watched there's this guy on Instagram who makes Hogwarts Legacy memes. Like he puts on just crazy outfits that you would have, like the characters, huge glasses, hat, all this stuff. And he shows up to somebody's house. And so if you play Legacy, this will make sense, listeners. But he shows up to somebody's house in the meme, and the two homeowners are like, is somebody robbing us? And they go downstairs, and the guy's just like, Revelio. Mine now, Demi guys. And he'll just taking whatever. And then they go, hey, that's our stuff. You can't steal that. And then he goes, your blood is on Ranrock's hands. And then he attacks them.
That's amazing. Yeah, that was such a fun meme that was going around, especially like when the game had first come out. Because, typical like open world game is you're supposed to explore, so you're encouraged to just walk into people's houses, and sometimes in the game people will be in their houses and you're just walking around
I'm just gonna take this
taking their stuff and rummaging through their suitcases and their trunks and things, and they don't do anything.
Why not? Yeah. Last one for this is with behind the scenes, it is possible that gobbledygook has its own alphabet. And I would think that it would. But the reason they say this is because the runes are seen on Gringotts banknotes that do not match any known runes. So it's like a different language. And to me, that checks out. But that's all we got for Golden Snitches. And listeners, that wraps up the main coverage of our episode. Before we hop to our restricted section, all right, for all those who don't want to get spoiled, don't want to head on down to the restricted section, or the graveyard, as I'm calling it for this book, all right, get on out of here. But before you go, thank you so much for listening this week. So glad to have you here, part of our show. And Laura, thank you for being on this episode. If listeners want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Barry. You can find me over on MuggleCast. So look up MuggleCast wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We also use the same name across all social channels. So TikTok, Instagram, Twitch. I know where we're definitely we're getting more active now. You can pretty much find us anywhere using MuggleCast, and we're doing chapter by chapter every week. Currently, we are working our way through the second half of Half-Blood Prince.
One of the, you're going to hate this. I just made this analogy for MuggleCast. When Micah was on, I said, like, Harry Potter podcasts come and go, but MuggleCast is eternal. It's been around forever. It's gonna be around forever. Don't you ever leave. But one of the thoughts I had was like, I love when a podcast has a massive back catalog. It means I can binge it. And like, even one of the things I do for MuggleCast is I have a terrible problem of like, I have to binge, and so listening once a week angers me, because then it ends and I'm like, I needed more. So I wait like a month, and then I'll listen to all of MuggleCast episodes that month and be like, oh, that was nice.
Yeah.
But so you're an anime fan, and one of the things that it made me think of was, oh my gosh, MuggleCast is One Piece. That's how many episodes y'all have. You guys are like One Piece. You're the One
Although
Piece.
I don't know if we actually rival One Piece.
No, they have
for the amount of episodes, but we do have
not the
quite
amount
a
of
backlog.
episodes, but the maybe amount of time recorded, because MuggleCast
Perhaps.
episodes are longer. And speaking of anime, needed to thank you. There was an episode years ago where you recommended. You guys had this episode where you talked about medium or different shows, books, whatever that give Harry Potter vibes, and you were like Mashal, the anime Mashal. You and your partner watched it, and you were like, check that out, listeners. Well, I did, and it's the funniest show.
It's so good.
Oh my goodness, it's so good. It's so funny, listeners. It's basically a Harry Potter spoof, but an anime. I'd say more about it, but we're already almost to 2 hours, so it's just a really good show. Check that out. But now, listeners, moving on to our restricted section. So, Laura, I have a list of like 5 things that I'll say. If you want to comment on them, you can comment.
Sure.
And if there's anything left that I didn't think to mention that was eating away at you, let's talk about it. So the first one, something I thought was interesting was that on Christmas morning, when Harry pulls out his sneakoscope out of the socks, it's not whirring. Now, the reason I found that significant is because when Harry went to Mad-Eye Fakey's office, the sneakoscope was whirring, and he said, they don't work here because like all the students are just lying about their homework and tasks and all that stuff anyway. But it's like, wait a minute, we're still at Hogwarts, and here's a sneakoscope that's not whirring. So I thought, that's an interesting little detail I never noticed before about Mad-Eye Fakey lying.
It's such a good call out too. And yeah, this book does such a good job of really allowing Mad-Eye Fakey to hide in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many points in this book where Harry could have figured it out pretty easily, but because he thinks this person's trying to help him, it's sort of the last place that he would think to look, right?
Well, Dumbledore trusts him.
Who are the perpetrators? But yeah, I'll also just for like a fun little tease here, not the first time in the series that Harry is going to rummage in his trunk and literally look at a plot point in his trunk and just disregard it.
Oh, it breaks my heart. Breaks my heart.
I know.
So as you highlighted in one of your favorite lines, the room of requirement is mentioned, all right, as it's just a common latrine. Well, not a pretty uncommon latrine, actually. It's got some nice, crisp cauldrons in there, chamber pots, I should say. But I like that it was dropped here in this chapter, and then later in book 5, that's what Harry remembers. He goes, wait a minute, Dumbledore peed in here. I remember this. My next one, we see Beetle Rita.
It's a tongue twister.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Beetle, I did it again. You know what I'm talking about, listeners. We see her in beetle form on the reindeer statue as Harry is dropping some eaves, doing his best Samwise impression. And that's how she's getting around. And then the call out of Bagman and the goblins. All right, we see that. And he lies. He basically just says, oh, yeah, they are, what is it? They're looking for Crouch. But they're not looking for Crouch. Nope. They're looking for Bagman because he got their monies. And then we also get that Fred and George moment because they've been kind of a red herring in this book as well. Kind of like how Percy was in book 2 with his whole girlfriend side plot. But it's later revealed that, Bagman stole money from them as well. And then my last one is I wrote Rita does get Hermione because this is the moment where she, Hermione angers Rita. Ron says, you shouldn't have done that. Hermione's like, I don't give a frick. What can she do to me? And then in the next chapters, it's one of my least favorite moments ever when Hermione's hands get like covered in that, the petrol, or I think it's undiluted bubotuber pus. And she gets blisters and she cries. And I'm like, this is, and I already recorded that episode because it was a bit out of order, but I hated, I was like, I'm a huge Dumbledore fan. I side with Andrew on many of y'all's discussions and being a Dumbledore apologist. But with that one, I thought he's wrong. He should have had the mail checked. How on earth do you not have like mail sent to children being supervised? So anyway.
Yeah. But also, I'm so glad you brought that up too, because it's another example of just the behavior that you look back on as an adult and you're like, grown adults were bullying teenagers over some gossip articles that they read. Like, and Mrs. Weasley is one of them.
Yeah.
But anyway.
That egg moment's so sad when she gets the little egg and she's like, your mom doesn't read the paper, does she? Or Rita Skeeter. I think the closest like real world example that I see constantly is grown men saying some of the most egregious, wicked things about like college football players.
Yeah.
It's like, they're kids. What are you doing? Like, why do you, I understand loving your team. I'm a huge Louisville Cardinals fan. Go Cards, tweet, you know? But I just don't get some of the hate that gets spewed out of their mouths about some of these children.
No, and especially it's like, okay, well, do you want to go play a televised football game, sir? Like, why are you attacking
I would have
these
caught
kids?
that. I would have caught that.
Sure, Jan. Sure.
Well, that wraps up all the things I want to do in restricted section. Did you have anything else you wanted to call out?
The only thing I would call out, in addition to what you brought up, is the moment during the Yule Ball chapter when Harry and Ron are in the gardens and they encounter Snape and Karkaroff and overhear Karkaroff's needy conversation he's having with Snape when he kind of abruptly grasps his forearm where we know he has his dark mark tattoo. That's
right. So this is good. I have basically an expert Potter fan on, so I have a question. Because this is something I think about often. There's a chapter when they meet Sirius in the cave, and they mention that Igor grabbed his wrist, and Snape's like, I have no idea why he would have done that. Or sorry, Sirius says that. I have no idea why he would have done that. And so the question that I asked my co-host at the time was, do we think that Sirius doesn't know what the dark mark is? Or do we think that he was just trying to like conceal it from the kids because maybe we shouldn't tell the kids?
You know, it's a really good question because this could also read as a plot hole, I think, because he knows enough about Karkaroff to know that Harry needs to stay away from him, right? He's suspicious of Karkaroff. So it's difficult for me to believe that Sirius wouldn't know anything about the dark mark, and I feel like if he did, he would definitely tell Harry. I just don't see a world in which he wouldn't want Harry to have that information. So it almost feels like a plot hole more than anything to me.
I agree. I think it was just one of those things that wasn't quite considered at the moment. The only way that I thought this could work, to fill the plot hole, would be, in book 5, Sirius comes out saying, even though he's young, he's just a boy, we'll still tell him, like he still needs to be made aware, and he's all for telling Harry the adult stuff. Perhaps the reason he feels that strongly was because, and I think my co-host said this at the time, he covered up the adult stuff before with the dark mark, being like, I didn't tell him last year all the things I should have told him, and it didn't turn out so well. It ended with the return of Satan. So maybe I should do this time. That's the only way I could think of.
Yeah, maybe. But I think that really is the only explanation that works.
Well, before I let you go, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. So there was one episode of MuggleCast where you guys accepted voicemail of people doing impressions of characters. And I did Cornelius Fudge, but in Trump's voice.
I remember that.
It was funny because I didn't change a single word in that paragraph of Cornelius Fudge. It just sounded exactly like something Trump would say. And I wanted to make mention to you that recently I had it taken down because I got hit with a copyright strike, but I recorded myself watching Goblet of Fire, the ending, and it's the ending in the graveyard when Voldemort comes back and he and Harry are chit-chatting. And in my Trump impersonation, I did a whole thing of him being like, I don't know if we've thought about this or not, But this Harry character, they keep telling me, is the chosen one, the main character. He seems pretty weak to me. He couldn't even save his friend. Pretty weak, if you ask me. They call him a Christ figure, but I don't know. I mean, look at this Voldemort guy. I think he might be the real Christ figure. I mean, think about it. He was gone. 13 years. Less than spirit, less than ghost. So good. Sounded pretty dead, if you ask me. And then that mousy fella, Wormtail, dumped him, buried him, one might say, in the cauldron. And then he rose again. Sounds pretty Christ-like to me. I don't know. Have we thought about this?
Bravo. So I feel like your Trump impression is unparalleled to anyone else I personally know. It is so good. And I'm sorry, can I ask, where did you do that? Like, you did a like commentary on Goblet of Fire? I just did. It was just a 90-second clip. I made a reel for YouTube for that particular scene because I was watching it, and my wife said something about like the connection of Trump rising from the grave. No, Voldemort rising from the grave. And I was like, wait a minute, we always call Harry a Christ figure. I bet there's room for somebody to foolishly say that Voldemort could be one. And so I think Voldemort would. I think that's exactly how he would look at it. Yeah, I'd never thought of that before, but I was like, he does spend much more time dead, I guess you could say. Totally. But yeah, there was just a thing on YouTube. I put it on Instagram, and it didn't get copyright striked, but I was a bit of a coward, and I didn't want to like offend people. Yeah. And listeners, I want to make something clear if you hear this. Me saying a Trump impersonation, that's not me saying I support or hate. It's not either. It's just an impersonation. I do the same with Joe Biden, malarkey, a whole bunch of them. It's a lot of fun. They're easy to do when they're, everywhere. Yeah. No, Barry's really, really good at impressions. Well, no, I was gonna say, like, if you were to ever put that up, I would love for you to send me a link. Just a whole Trump commentary on. Yeah, I mean, honestly, listen, there's a market for everything in this podcasting world, and I've definitely seen other creators out there who make their entire bag about doing TV and movie commentary in character as like Trump or as, whoever else. So could be something you could have fun with. I do it as Andrew Sims, and I just defend Dumbledore at every moment. But thank you very much, Laura. This has been a wonderful episode. It has been an absolute honor to have you on. You're such a joy to talk to. I'm so grateful for your time on the podcast. Thank you for inspiring this show and for lending your voice to this podcast and to the Potter fandom at large. You're just a wonderful, wonderful person. And so we're very grateful to have you here. Yeah. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And I had so much fun today. I'm really glad that we were able to make this work, and especially that we were able to make it work for my favorite book. It was just like everything aligned perfectly. I had a great time. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, listeners, you heard it. That wraps up our episode. Hope you have a wonderful week. And next week, I guess I'll see you then. I don't remember what the names of the chapters are, but chapters next ones. We'll see you then. Goodbye, everybody. Bye. Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.